Welcome back to the Conversations with Kristi. Today, we're diving into something that doesn't get talked about enough: why neurodivergent children, particularly kids with ADHD, can be more vulnerable to online exploitation and grooming. I'm joined by Sharon Collon from the Functional Family, and we unpack rejection sensitivity, impulsivity, screen safety, consent, and how to have these conversations without pushing your child away. This episode is practical, honest, and empowering, not fear-based. And if you're parenting a neurodivergent child, this one matters. So let's dive in and see what Sharon has to share with us. Hello, and welcome back. I am so excited because my good friend Sharon Collon, from the founder of the Functional Family, someone I've been on her podcast, the ADHD Families Podcast, finally is on my podcast. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristi. I'm so
I
excited
know.
for our chat today.
I know. And, it's been a long time coming. I think I've asked you like a few times, and then I had a break, and life's just crazy, especially this last few years has been nuts, right?
Life is wild.
It's good fun.
We got here.
Good fun. Look, Sharon, I think what I'm really excited to talk about with you is that I've got a neurodiverse child, and I kind of stumbled along. I didn't realize how much I was doing that actually helped my own neurodiverse child. I just adapted with her. Had no idea she had she was ADHD and autistic until she was 13, actually. But the warning signs were all there. I think I was just off with, I just was like, that's my daughter. So I don't really, didn't need a label, but it helped her when she got to high school, because when she got to high school, that's when a lot of learning issues started, and she started realizing she wasn't the average student and stuff like that. So I think I wish I had have known more back when she was little, because first of all, it would have made it a lot easier. And that's what you do for parents. You make life easier. And so I wish I had have known you back then. But we're all on our own journeys, right? So, I'm just grateful that you're here, and you've helped so many families. I think I read 40,000 families so far.
That was a couple of years ago. I stopped counting since then. So I'm so incredibly passionate about it because I have a neurodivergent family myself. And I remember when my first son was diagnosed, we really knew it was coming. He is very much my husband, who is very hyperactive in profile, and there was no mistaking it. But we got it handed this really old photocopied pamphlet. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this pamphlet, right? So what my mission became is learning everything about ADHD, distilling it down into practical steps so that I could avoid that crying in the car that I did when my first son was diagnosed, because I just had no idea what to do. And we invested a lot in stuff that just didn't work and went down all these rabbit holes. And what parents are crying out for is really not more information about ADHD. I feel like we've got some information, whether it's right or wrong, who knows, thanks TikTok. But what we do need is really clear practical strategies. And that's the bit that's missing for a lot of families. I think that's why I love your work in particular, because you are giving people really clear tools about what to do in this area. And it's probably one of the areas that is the most triggering for a lot of parents. Everyone's like, what do we do about this? So really excited to delve into that today.
Yeah. And I guess I was saying earlier before we started recording, like I said, I stumbled across things that helped. I knew that my daughter was quite, and the word our parents would say is stubborn, defiant, obstinate. She would, push back on me all the time. And so, I learned very early on, if I turned getting changed into a game, then she was willing to do it. If I made things, fun, she was willing to do it. I can't believe I didn't know, seriously. But I mean, she's my one and only, and my husband was ADHD. I laugh, right? So I'm 15, my husband's 15, we get together. He was very in trouble with school, getting kicked out of class. He was that typical hyperactive kid, right? And I come along and I'm like, no more this, no more that. You're going to buckle down. And obviously the reward was me. So he was like, yep, okay. And then when we moved out of home, we used to go shopping together for food once a week. And he'd be like, grabbing things, putting them in the shopping trolley, and I'd be putting them back out. And it was like having a toddler, it literally like having a toddler. And I look back on that time, I'm like, how did we not know? He didn't get diagnosed till 30. And so, and so I have been obviously managing is the word I would have used, my husband for a long time. Then my daughter comes along, and So it's so funny that there's so many people out there probably stumbling along trying to find ways to actually help their kids or help their families. And, that crying in the car is a real thing because it can be really overwhelming for someone who just doesn't understand.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And so I guess for me, I want to hear more about exactly how, there's so many things going in my head right now. We know that neurodiverse children are more likely to be exploited. When we're talking about what I do in my job, I saw so many neurodiverse children being exploited, both in person and online. Sometimes they didn't even know they're being exploited or abused. And I guess I'd love to talk to you a bit about that before we move on to some of the strategies we can use with kids and other parts to this. So what do you know about like the exploitation of young people, especially our kids?
Yeah. And let's be real about this. We know that there's been quite a lot of studies about child exploitation and dodgy things happening online. And we know that kids who are neurodivergent are much more likely to be exploited, to post images of themselves, to be bullied online, to make some very interesting decisions when it comes to online behavior. And there's a few reasons why. We've got the impulsivity aspect of it. So we post a photo of ourselves without really thinking about what that is or what that's going to do. And we do it too quickly and then we can't take it back. And that can be an aspect of it. We've also got some different reward pathways in the brain that predators can exploit, essentially. So they're offering their attention.
Yeah.
And it feels powerful and it also feels rewarding. And
Yep.
so they definitely know about that and they're definitely exploiting that. And it can feel for the victim, it can feel like motivating at the start. And, it's dopamine driven and it can feel really exciting. And of course, especially if they think that they're talking to another child who really wants to be their friend, this can start off very innocent and it can go dark very, very fast. Next, we've got difficulty reading social cues. This is a really common thing when it comes to kids who are neurodivergent. We miss those social cues. So perhaps they're not doing well with friendships in real life. Online can, or what we would say is that they need support developing skills for social cues. And I think that like when I did social skills training as part of my ADHD credentialing, I actually think that everyone needs to do social skills training. I actually listened to it. It's not just neurodivergent people. I actually listened to it and I was like, oh my God, this could have saved me so much heartache in the school ground. Like being able to know this stuff was just so important.
Yeah.
But we know that they're kind of misfiring on the social cues things a fair bit. And perhaps their school ground conversations or their friends circle isn't really, it's a bit of a misfire there. And so online feels safer. You don't have to watch for body language. You can be there. And that obviously that most people are very good at it. Our beautiful kids are very good at gaming and bits and pieces. And you don't have to worry about reading all the subtleties and everything. It's all very straight. So this can impair a person's ability to assess risks in social situations. So we're really into the game and we're not quite reading where the risks are. The next thing is rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yep.
This is absolutely huge. And if I'm just prefacing this to parents that if you don't know a lot about RSD, please, please, please go and do some research on it. I have not met a person with ADHD that doesn't have RSD, and we need to know about it. And this is a lot of what my work is coming around to at the moment, because children with ADHD often experience intense rejection sensitivity.
Yep.
So it can feel like physical pain. It's perceived and real rejection. So we know that there's a whole lot of microaggressions and things like that happen for people with ADHD, like little micro rejections all the time. But then that we become hypersensitive to it and we almost perceive it when it isn't there.
Happening. Yep.
Yeah. So a child who feels unseen or misunderstood, this is why, they're feeling like they don't fit in. Then they get online and they encounter someone who listens and praises and offers their attention. And grooming rarely begins with danger. Like it doesn't start off as as a dangerous.
No, it's just someone having a conversation, two people having conversation and like getting along.
And they're paying these kids attention, right? And it begins with just meeting a need. And the pattern of giving and withdrawing attention keeps a child emotionally engaged. So for a child who's neurodivergent, this can feel really safe and can feel also like it's meeting a need that perhaps the real world's feeling a bit threatening, and it can be a bit of a tricky one to navigate. So we know that those things make kids with ADHD and autism way more likely to be targeted online. And we just need to be aware of it. I mean, it's not all doomsday. We've got some things that we can do to support our kids. The other one that we did touch on there is that peer rejection. So a lot of our kids, there was a study where it was saying by year 3 that kids with ADHD, that I think it was 70% of kids with ADHD, and I'll have to check this stat for you, don't have a single close friend. Okay, so we've got kids that do not have a safe social circle. We've got them perceiving rejection all over the place. And the internet is now feeling like our safe place to be ourselves. So this isolation makes them particularly vulnerable to other people and predators online. So we just want to be aware of these things, because once we have the information, we can actually do something about it and empower parents so that we can spare our beautiful kids some of the hurt that they might experience.
I just feel so terrible. Like the rejection sensitivity dysphoria. My daughter, 18 years old, is still feeling it. And the one thing that I have constantly reminded her over the years is it perceived or is it real? So it's one of the things that I ask all the time. I never say, I don't think you're actually seeing it the way it is. I just say, hey, have you considered, is this a real rejection, or is this a real hurt, or is it something you're perceiving because you feel you're a bit sensitive today, or you're a bit tired, or just trying to get her to think through whether it's actually rejection or not. Because I know over the years, even with myself, she's felt rejected when I've been busy or I've been whatever's happening. It can be really hard for them to perceive whether they're actually seeing something that's happening, or is it just, I'm feeling internally, I'm feeling a little bit, sad or upset or triggered or overwhelmed, and am I seeing it as it is?
Well, you're absolutely doing the right thing. Like, number one, we've got to be their soft place to land about this. The world is spiky for kids who are neurodivergent. And then we do need to challenge it sometimes, because I like to reframe RSD. So I reframe it from the words rejection sensitivity dysphoria, because that sounds very serious and not, it just sounds like another disorder, really. And I don't want them to think about that sort of stuff. I actually reframe it, and this is based on William Dodson's work on RSD, is reframing it as a radical safety detector. So your body is working overtime to keep you safe.
Yeah.
We know that kids with ADHD, their nervous system is heightened. Like it just is constantly raised all the time. They're checking if they're safe. They're scanning for safety all the time. So we want to acknowledge it, that what they're going through is quite tricky, and then ask for evidence. Okay, so is that person really angry with you? Have they given you other signs that they're angry with you? Have they given you other signs that they're leaving you out? And it might be a real rejection, and then we need to be there to catch them. Or it might be that we're feeling a little bit vulnerable on that day. A great one to look at is tone. So I always use my poor husband as examples for this. But I can send a text message to my husband, which I perceive as neutral. So it'll be like, hey, going to be late, start without me. To me, that's a neutral interaction. It's not happy, not sad. It's just info, right? He reads it like this. Hey, going to be late, start without me.
Do you know what? I'm just thinking about my poor husband.
So my neutral interaction is received with tone. Okay. So this can happen in the world of SMS, in the world of online messages. We can't read those cues, and we automatically, because we like to think all black and white, like good or bad, and we go to extremes of thinking, we're automatically going to perceive that that's a rejection. And so we just need to challenge those sometimes. And if it is a real rejection, and there often is, then we need to be there to support them for it and work out what their next step is, because we definitely don't want that impulse. The power of the pause is a great strategy for ADHD when we're not sure. Just don't do anything, right? Like sit.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is make sure we're actually challenging, do we have evidence that this is an actual rejection? So we've got to slow it. The actual key is slowing it down. We just need to slow it down.
And I've done that as well over the years, like whether it's friendship groups, teachers. Now she's employed and working, like I've gone, okay, what is the cues that you were given? I don't say it like that, but what did they say? What did they do? What was the tone? Okay, I would perceive it like that. Or I'm not sure, maybe just see next time you interact with them if they're still, and like you said, a lot of the time it is real and they are perceiving it right. But at the same time, sometimes if we're feeling vulnerable and a little bit off, I mean, I don't believe I have ADHD or autism, but I, even from my childhood trauma, because of trauma, have spent a lot of my years trying to perceive whether someone's upset with me or not, because that was part of my punishments as a kid, is everyone was angry. So for me, and so when you're speaking, I'm thinking, I've spent a long time in my life trying to perceive if people are upset or not. And so it's kind of like that, in that you're constantly thinking people are upset with you based on their tone. It could be them having a bad day. But I have the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience to go, well, that's kind of their problem. Like if they're upset, that's on them. Whereas someone with ADHD is not going to feel like that. They're going to feel like, oh my gosh, they hate me. They don't like me. I've done something wrong. I'm wrong. That's what it generally comes down to, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's it's going to that all or nothing approach, the black or white thinking again. Like we just tend to go to the extremes quite quickly. But it is a skill, right? Like RSD is there. And I reckon there's a beautiful Elizabeth Gilbert quote that talks about anxiety. And she's like, think of anxiety like you're a crazy aunt in the back of a car, right? Like she's in the car and she's going to say stuff. And you're like, oh my God, Auntie Beryl, like she's right in the back, right? She's in the car, but don't let her drive. Like it's okay for her to be there and in the car, but she's not allowed to drive. So I kind of think of RSD a little bit like that, right? Like Auntie Beryl in the back of the car and it's there and it's got a purpose to keep us safe, but we don't let it drive.
Yeah.
So if we let it drive, that is where, we just start feeling more isolated. Like it kind of leaves us with nowhere to go. And so we want to have some really good strategies around RSD. So that some of that is naming it, being able to name what it is. And some of that is being able to challenge it a little bit. And some of it is actually being able to text back and just go, hey, just checking, are you angry at me about something? Like you are able to do that. And most people will be like, And once you start doing that, it gives you more evidence that everything's okay, that it is safe. And so don't be afraid to challenge RSD as it comes up for you. Like, you can actually just go, hey, I just saw when you were talking to me then your body language was a bit closed off. Are we good? Like you're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And call it out in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that is why our young people can be exploited. One of the many reasons why they get exploited is that need to, like, they don't want people to reject them and they're not being rejected online. So someone online or someone who's harming them in person, right? So when a child's being groomed in person, they're being love bombed by this person. They're being made the center of attention. They're being made to feel amazing. So a child with ADHD or neurodivergent will go, oh my gosh, finally I found someone who really loves me. And sadly, it's fake in order to abuse them, right? So this person's doing it to abuse them. That's why I guess as parents, as adults, as people who are watching, like when we're on the periphery of this, you have to pay attention to first of all, those vulnerable kids like our ADHD neurodiverse kids, we need to be paying attention to who's giving them attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And because they are very vulnerable. And like I said at the very beginning, I was constantly investigating kids who are neurodiverse.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, you go.
Oh no, it never surprised me, but at the time I didn't put two and two together of why. And I just know, looking at my own family situation, which I understand way more now than I did when I was a police officer, but in my own family situation, I knew that neurodiverse kids, they do feel rejection really strongly. They do feel really, like that no one gets them. So it's like ultimate fuel for a predator.
Yeah, it sure is. And I think this is one area where parents really struggle to be able to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about a lot of stuff with our kids. Like we are pretty good at talking about this, but this is the area where we falter a little bit. We're not quite sure what to do about this conversation. So it would be a really cool thing to give some parents some practical tools about this one, because I think that we get a bit stuck.
Okay, well, tell me where you get stuck, and let's see how we can work through it together. Because I think combining our powers for good, we can both give parents some tips and hints on how to do this. Because I have only what I know works with my child and with all of the kids I've spoken to. And it's funny, right? My kid was so much harder to talk to than any other child. Same with your kids are probably, talking to other kids is so much easier, right? So it's so much easier. But mind you, I don't know, somewhere along the line, I stopped worrying about what I was saying to her and how I was saying it and just got on with it. But that was from practice. So we have to practice this stuff. So let's work out how we can have these conversations. So which one would you like to tackle first between us?
Well, I think one of the things, like, let's set up this conversation first, because I also want to preface this by saying that parents, we shouldn't expect that this is a one and done conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Something that we weave into, and I mean a lot of ADHD parenting conversations, like, it's not a one and done. Like, we don't have the conversation about the birds and the bees and then we tick it off and we go, oh, well, they got it. Like, actually, unhinged things of my childhood, like when we did puberty and all of the sexual talk, my parents took me to a library with all my schoolmates and there was like a slideshow about reproductive thing. And I was just sitting at the library at night with all my friends and then we just never talked about it again.
That is unhinged. Mind you, mine was no better.
What's yours?
Well, unhinged birds and bees conversation. So I got my first period at 13. I'd had I knew what it was through puberty education in year 5 and 6, right? Or year 6 and 7. And then I got my first period at like around my birthday in year 8, so 13 years old. And I went to my stepmother and said, hey, I've got my period. And she's like, right, took me in the car, didn't talk about it, just took me straight in the car down to the shop, bought me some phone books. No, they were pads, but they were like this. They were like this thick, the old school ones with the belt. And I mean, we're talking in the early 90s. There was no such. But she bought the ones that she bought, and then she just said, "Don't go reading every Tom, Dick, and Harry." That was it. That was my whole sex education until I got into year 10, and then we were talking in school, year 10 in school, and we had to sit in the auditorium, and they showed us pictures of chlamydia and warts on penises and all of this stuff and said, and like, seriously, like, we can do better than that for our kids. And I personally, from my own experience with my own child, I know that I would rather be the one to help guide my child. A lot of young people, a lot of kids say, today we've got pornography, which is ready on hand. And again, that's an issue for young kids and neurodiverse kids. But the thing is that so many young people I know and so many people I know that never had anyone to talk to, and they were put into situations they never should have been put in. They were in dangerous situations. They were sexually assaulted because they didn't know they had rights to say no. Even when I was writing my book about consent, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, there's so many scenarios that I could write about from my own personal experience because I had no idea I could say no to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, that we're leaving our kids up to chance to not being sexually abused or assaulted or traumatized because we are too scared to talk to them. So, yeah.
I mean, we are a product of the early 90s, right? Like, there was just some wacky stuff going on out there, and we can do better. Like, this is a beautiful opportunity to empower our kids with practical tools for this. I mean, we know when we're talking about setting up this conversation, I think it's really important. So we know it's not a one and done. It needs to happen repeatedly, often. But what happens when you sit a child or any child down, but I'm going to specify this for neurodivergent kids, when you sit them down for a serious conversation, what are they thinking?
In trouble.
They think
I think that.
Right. Like, so we're not going to do it in a sit down serious conversation, right? We're not going to have this conversation. And that's what we want to do. We want to go, hey buddy, can you come here? We're going to have a serious chat. And then the neurodivergent kid goes, oh my gosh, they finally found out about the lolly wrappers in the toilet. And, like they totally going to go somewhere else, and they're going to fight or flight, and they're not going to hear anything you say from that point on. So we're not going to do it that way. What we're going to do, and this applies to a lot of serious conversations and coaching conversations with your kids who are neurodivergent, or if they're prone to a little bit of anxiety. We know that especially the ADHD brain is largely an anxious brain, right?
Yep.
So we're going to use side door strategies, and this works very well for therapy as well. Most kids who are neurodivergent are not comfortable with front door. So if you're knocking on that front door going, let's have a serious conversation, they're not comfortable with it. Same with when you're having other serious coaching conversations as well. So we go side door. So what does a side door strategy look like? Well, we go in the side a little bit. So we might be doing a job. So we might be like, as we're making the bed, we're asking questions. What would you do if? What would you do if? right? Like, and I don't ever say, has anyone at your school been talking to someone online? Like that feels like it's like a kind of accusation, threatening question. So I was just like, what? Like, it's a hypothetical. It's what would you do if this happened? And if you are going to ask a direct question about something that's going on, talk about their friends. Don't say, has anyone ever done this to you? Just have any of your friends, or you can even do this for school conversations. Like, any of your friends feeling stressed about the tests coming up? And often you'll get their response if you're asking about people in their class or their friends. So side door is better. So be doing something else. Be patting the dog, be washing the dog, be like, I don't know, dogs are great. So, like anything else, like you're unstacking the dishwasher, you're doing something else. So they're not having to give you that full eye contact, because that is a front door thing going on. And that's why when we're talking about therapies and things, equine therapy, like all of those things are really great. Side door. They're all about side door, right?
Yeah.
And so we also want to be careful about how we position ourselves when it comes to screens, because screens are here to stay, and I am not anti-screens by any, but can I say this, that the number one topic that people bring to ADHD parent coaching, which is what I do all day, every day, is screen time. So it is causing the most amount of friction in households, but I just want to be careful with how we position ourselves. And I want to see if you agree with this. We don't position ourselves against screens. As parents, if you put you against your child, right? So we like, bloody screen time, I'm taking away the iPad, all of this stuff like that. It's you against your child, right? Yeah. So they perceive you against screens as you against them.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. And I'm not anti-screen either. I am intentional screen time, intentional learning, intentional, there's got to be some boundaries, rules, and like a fence around it, because it's not a safe environment for kids if not. And they are going, hey, okay, I've put up the boundary. I've put like device restrictions in place, time limits in place. I've got all of this stuff. Okay, here, just do whatever you want whilst you're on there. No, everything has to, for me, until my child got to a certain age, everything was vetted. I set up the expectation from the very get-go. This is what we do. I'm going to look at what you're doing. I'm going to look at what games, and if they're age appropriate. We only play age appropriate games, unfortunately. There was some little bits of, if someone came over and they wanted to play something like Minecraft, for instance, it'd be like, okay, Minecraft is free for all for 3 hours, but it's got to be in the lounge room. And so there was just this, because I knew enough to know these were the things that mattered. There's also conversations around it, and I always positioned it as, we're a team, we work together. Because like you just said, if it's you against the child, no, buddy, like, it's my job's to protect you. I'm actually working with you. I'm here to make sure you're safe on there. I'm here to make sure you have a good time on there. I don't want you to be, anyone to do anything to harm you, etc. And a lot of kids, and especially a lot of neurodiverse kids, they have a high sense of confidence when they think that I know, you don't need to tell me. Like, yeah, you might know, but I want to make sure you know. I just need you to show me that you know this. 100. And then I'm going to let you have fun. Let's get on with it.
I think, I don't know if, like, for the parents of kids with ADHD are listening, like, have you ever noticed that they don't like being told what to do? Like, have you ever?
What are you talking about? They love it.
So if you say one way and you lean and you give them something to push against, they're going to push, right? Like, all my family have oppositional defiance disorder, although I don't love that tag, to be fair. But if you push against something, they are going to push, and they're going to push back, and they're not even going to be sure why, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to push. So we don't want to give them something to push against here. So align yourself as a teammate for these kind of conversations. So really put yourself like, I want to make sure that, and when we're talking about screen time conversations, ask them what an appropriate amount is, really coach them about it, right? So if they'll throw off a bogus answer first, so they'll be like 8 hours, right? And then you negotiate it down to what you think is appropriate, right? You get it down, and then I want you to give them extra, right? Yeah. So they get it down to 2 hours or whatever it is, and then go, you know what? Because I know that you're going to be super responsible with this, and I just have so much faith in you, we're going to go extra half an hour. So that's just showing them that, yeah, you're going to have this conversation, but you trust them as well. But we want to make sure that we're very aligned on, like, what are we against? We're not against screens, and we're not against our child. We're against the silly people on the internet that are doing bad things. That's what we're against. So position yourself as a teammate against that, because it'll help you have these conversations and help you help your child come and tell you, because most
Yeah, I was about to say, what I found is if you and your child are working together against it, they are the first people, and you're not overreacting when something happens. Like you're going, oh, wow, thanks for coming and telling me. Like, that's amazing. Look at what you did. You picked up on it. Like, you picked up on this person being inappropriate and grooming. They're like, "Phew." They will tell you, and you'll get sick of being told, like, look at this person, look at this person. And you're like, but you'll also realize that your child, and it's a twofold thing, right? You realize that your child can pick it up. You've actually taught them how to identify grooming.
And they're terrified that in that first instance that you're going to take it away. So don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's
You
why
have to
I
work
love
with
that you
them.
praise them straight away. Like, you were like, oh my gosh,
wow.
you picked that up. Like, how clever are you? Amazing. Thank you for letting me know. And then go into your cupboard, sit down in the dark and just scream and freak out there, but don't do it in front of your children. Right?
I know, exactly. I say the same things. In fact, you've said so many things that I use in my own practice and teaching and stuff. So we're very aligned. But I think the other thing that I would say is I wouldn't be scared if your kids are picking it up before it happens. And I wouldn't even be scared if it's happened. I know that it seems traumatic to think, oh my gosh, my child has shared an intimate photo with some stranger on the internet, right? In the day and age of AI, they can create photos from anything. And once upon a time, we used to go, like it was the end of the world. Today, we can repair that and say, look, it was because one thing I do ask parents to ask, when they find that their kid has shared an intimate image, is like, you need to get to the reason why they did it. Before you freak out and if you can control your emotions enough, ask your child, what were you feeling in that moment when you sent that image? Because if we can work out what they were feeling and they can remember what that feeling feels like, when they feel it again, they will think twice before they do it, because they won't want to feel the shame, guilt, and the rest of it, right? So just remember, from my perspective as a detective and stuff, yeah, it sucks and it's horrible. And yes, it's against the law and it's illegal, but fear actually makes it worse. If they go inwards, they hide it from us. They do it again anyway because they don't understand what's actually going on for them emotionally and, their feelings, etc. If they can understand their feelings, I was looking for I wanted to feel like someone wanted me. I felt lonely in that moment. Someone was making me feel good. And when they understand that this person was actually doing that to abuse them, groom them, whatever, because, the Band-Aid has to come off once it's done, right? So you have to go, hey, well, they use that against us. They make us feel like that because they want us to do what they want us to do and then abuse us. And so you're human. It's okay that you made that mistake because our kids are learning. And unfortunately, some of this stuff is really tough to learn.
I love that you said those things because it really is very good advice. Like, our kids are going to slip up. Like, they're going to make, if there's one thing I've learned, as growing up, we're going to make some very interesting choices some of the time. And it's all learning. And I have the saying, I love the Marie Forleo saying, everything's figure outable, right? So no matter what decision my kids make, and be aware that we've made some very, very interesting decisions, I'm just like, as long as you tell me, we can figure it out together. You don't get in trouble if you tell the truth. We work it out together, right? And so I like that saying because when you have black or white thinking, you go to catastrophizing very quick. You're never going to recover from this. This is you're going to be in so much trouble. So we need to just help them pull back from that everything's recoverable. There's not that many decisions in life that you can't back from in some way or form. So we need to just make sure that they know that this doesn't affect our love for them. This doesn't affect, what we are, that they're a part of the family, that they're accepted here. This is just a little blip. It's okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of the experiences or a lot of the things that I've seen over the years is that children, young people, they don't have the wisdom or experience to know that it's just a moment in time and it's not going to last their lifetime. And I've got to say, police officers, society, we've done a really bad job of making kids think that once it's on the internet, it's there forever. Yes, it might be, but guess what? We've got AI now that's making things that look like it's real. So we can literally, and I'm not saying to excuse, we don't want kids sharing their intimate images if possible because it's out there and we've got no control over it. But if it happens and if your child slips up, And I got told by this beautiful little 5-year-old the other day, there's no such thing as a naughty kid. There's only kids that are learning. And I was like, she must have heard that so many times by her mum, because she would say, and her mum was like, she made a joke. The little girl made a joke because she said, her mum said, there's no such thing as naughty kids, only kids are learning. And this boy in her class was like, well, he's got to learn a lot, because he was being he was being obnoxious or obviously interrupting the class, and the thing is that our kids are learning. It is recoverable. The thing that's not recoverable in my mind, the thing that does the most trauma and harm to kids, is when they are left alone to tackle these things on their own, when they don't feel love and support, when they feel like that they've literally left to their own devices, they've got no one to turn to, and that this is the end of the world for them. And that's when they self-harm. That's when they do the unthinkable. And we've seen young people do that. So in my mind, nothing, like you said, it's all fixable, or, it's never the end of the world. But our kids won't know that, because they don't have the wisdom and experience to know that if we don't keep telling them that.
I mean, this is hard for parents, because we weren't modeled this, right? Like, not a lot of our parents modeled this. Like, think about us growing up. You had a big feeling, something big happened, go to your room. Go to your room and sort that out, right? Like, that's how we were raised. We were raised by exclusion. So we had a big feeling, something awkward happened, go to your room, right? So get away from me. So, and we averted, the parents took away eye contact, which is the very thing our kids are seeking for safety. So they're seeking out our body turning towards them, right? So we turn away when things are getting too much for us. So we avoid the situation with our body. So we've got to be careful about all those things that we're doing, because when things get tricky, when things get tough, we turn towards it. We need to turn towards it.
It's triggering though for us, our generation, because we got treated like that. So that's what we naturally do without even thinking. And you just made me think about some of the cringe moments, if I could redo, is where I've gone, but I got better at it. Like, I got better at saying, hey, I just need a moment to regulate myself, and please take me not hugging you or helping you regulate right now and she was older. I'm not rejecting you. I just need a moment to regulate myself so I can help you. And that's only in the last 5 or 6 years, right? But before that, I would be like, go to your room. Like, and it's so tragic that that's what we were taught. And you're right. Like, we walked away thinking the world hates us. Everyone hates us.
It's hard, but I love that conversation that you had. You can actually say, like, I'm a sensory avoiding person, right? Like, there's so much sensory stuff coming at me in this house. I get to a point in the day where I'm touched out. Like, there's just no more. So I have to say, like, I absolutely am going to hear you out, and you are safe here. I just have to go to the bathroom, and then I'll be back in 5 minutes, and we will deal with, like, this situation. I'll help you, and I love you, but I'm going to the bathroom, right? And so you're absolutely allowed to slow yourself down, buy yourself time, go and do fake wheeze, whatever you need to do. Like, just have that moment so you can come up, because I notice that when I shoot from the hip, when I go straight into reactive parenting mode, what comes out of my mouth is usually wrong. Like, it is venom. So if I go straight for, like, if I'm not able to regulate, I'm like, what did you do that for? Blah, 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 like, blah, blah. The more you do it, the better it gets, the easier it is to deploy, and the better it is for everyone. One of the things that you talked about before is using, like, having those sort of boundaries before. Like, obviously we still want to use parental controls. You talked about your kids playing Minecraft in the lounge room. I think that is a really key one to highlight here. Like, put them in the common areas. Don't send them up to their rooms. And one thing I did want to say there is, like, the headphone situation, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was on loudspeaker. I had to deal with the noise, but I wanted to hear who was on those calls. I don't care about the swearing. I just want to hear, because kids do swear in these games.
Yep.
I just wanted to know that there was no strange weirdo trying to groom my kid.
I think we need to flag this, because we need to take away those headphones, because the kids think they get in trouble for swearing. I don't care about that, right? Like,
I don't care about swearing.
Yeah. Like, let's just be real. Like, kids swear. And also, I'm just going to preface this.
We all did it.
Kids also vape, right? Like, every parent that comes to me goes like, oh, it's so lucky that my kids aren't vaping. I mean, everyone else in their class is, but my kid isn't. I'm like, your kid's probably.
They're just very good at hiding it.
Just take it for what it is, right? Like, your kid's probably going to swear online, and that sucks, but, like, it's not the end of the world. What we're trying to do is ensure safety here. So put it through the speakers, and then, because I am sensory avoidant and that noise drives me bananas, and those conversations, honestly, you could just, they
And
could
the
very
squealing,
yeah,
the
right.
squealing on Fortnite when they
And
get, like, they start screaming
roaring.
like they're being murdered.
Yes. So loop earplugs, get those loop earplugs in your ears, but have it
Yeah.
in the common area. And then also research the games that your kids are playing. Like, we just need a little
I
bit, just
always
put it
do
into
that.
ChatGPT, just check what it is, like check if it's okay. And in that coaching conversation, we just want to be curious, not confrontational. Remember, side door, side door, side door. Like, just be curious about what's going on for your child, because we just, I think we're messing up here because we feel a bit out of our depths. Like, I don't know about you, but my kids can run rings around me tech-wise. Like, they
Oh,
are
yeah, of
so
course.
clever. And so I feel already on the back foot. And so when these conversations need to happen, I'm already a little bit on edge because they
Do you
know
know what
more
my
about.
tips are?
Yep,
My
go.
tip is to so yes, ChatGPT, but commonsensemedia.org is a really good website, mainly because it's got parental reviews and children reviews. So the kids review it as well and write their reviews. But second to that is, if I had approved a game, maybe not in the first use, but afterwards, when like she's just chilling out playing the game, I would sit next to her, lay next to her, wherever she was, and I would go, "Oh, what do you do in that game? How do you talk to people? Like, are you playing with anyone you know?" And I would just be curious about how it works, show me what it does. Now and again, I would give it a go myself, and I'd give it, 20 minutes of my time. And then while she's playing and sort of distracted, I would be able to go, "So, do you ever find anyone that you don't know in this game? Is anyone, like, can they message you in this game?" Like, and so, I mean, most of the time when she was under 13, she wasn't allowed to have those games anyway. That was part of my rules. It was never a multiplayer game with messaging capability. But when she got over that, even still up until a few years ago, I was checking. I was like, "Oh, so can anyone message you? Like, is it just anyone? Do you ever see anything that makes you feel uncomfortable here?" "Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Like, that's cool." And like, I never was like, "Oh my gosh, you blah, 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 blah." I never told her off. I was just like, "Oh yeah, cool. Right. What do you reckon could happen if this happened? Do you reckon kids, like, and one of the things that I'm really keen on showing kids is how to critically think things through. And so, again, didn't realize I was doing it with my daughter, but I always used to ask questions like, "Why do you think people want to do that? Like, why do you think people like this game? Why do you," in gaming sense, but even in relationship sense? Like, I used to say to my daughter, say, for instance, she was having a fight with a friend, or a friend was trying to be a bit more controlling, because that's, kids have those relationship challenges, right? Where one child's trying to dominate the whole group or control the whole group, and you're not allowed to talk to that person, and you're not allowed to. And I would be like, literally in the back of my mind, I'm like, coercive control. Let's teach her about this. So I'd be like, "Why do you think people want to control other people? Do you think it's okay that they control their friends? Do you think that it's," and so I was literally trying to get her to think, okay, that person's, it's not okay. And then I would always finish off with, your body's your body, your rights. You're allowed to do whatever you want. No one's allowed to control you. No one's allowed to tell you how to do things. If anyone does, then that's not okay. And then this was in friendship groups at 8 years old. So come her first relationship and boyfriend's trying to tell her what to do, she's like, "Pfft, yeah, right, mate. Like, get to the back of the line." And so it was really interesting to me that I was doing this because I have my experience as a police officer, but it works so well in that the more you challenge your children to think critically, to look at their social media feeds if they're on social media, or to look at what they're consuming. Like, why do you like that? Why do you like watching this show? What's in this show? Do you think kids could do that? One of the shows that during COVID, she was only 12 at the time, I watched Sex Education with her, and people were like, "Oh my God, you watched Sex Education?" Yes, we fast forwarded the sex scenes, because at the time, the first season, I was like, I'm not ready to watch sex scenes with my 12-year-old. But the conversations that came from that, there was a situation with drinking and sex. I was like, do you think that someone who drinks is able to make a proper judgment call when they're, intoxicated? Do you think that they actually could give consent? And so I was having these conversations from movies, videos, songs, all of these conversations over the time. And I feel that the more interested we get and the more we challenge things, like, it's not about saying no to them. It's about questioning, okay, what do you like about that? What do you think that you get from that? Like, what's it going to help you with? Do you think that that might be something that you can use later on? Like, there's so many ways that you can go around this and help your young person.
I like something that you said earlier too about role playing, because a lot of kids who are neurodivergent, like they don't learn necessarily by people telling them what to do, but they do learn through role play. So you are able to sort of put yourself in,
Oh, I did that.
position. Yes. Like tell us an example of that, because I think that is a really good strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So and I feel like you're interviewing me here. So what happened and I knew that this was important. I don't know how I knew it, but I think I knew it. I just got it. So when my daughter was about 3 or 4 years old, and she was at daycare, long daycare, and I would say like, I would go, we'd done the body safety rules. We'd done like, my body is my body. No one's allowed to touch my body, my private parts, take videos or photos of my private parts. Like, she knew those rules. She knew the names for everything. And I'd be like, okay. And sometimes it was in the shower while she was having a shower. Sometimes it was just, I remember this one time she was standing in the hallway and I was standing in the hall. I don't know how it came up, but I was like, okay, I'm going to be another kid asking to see your privates at daycare. And I'm going to ask you to see your privates and you're going to tell me what you're going to do. And so I was like, hey, Charlotte. And I pretended like the voice and everything. I role played it. I'm like, hey, Charlotte, can you show me your vagina? And she was like, no, that's my private parts. And like, she's like, no, you're not allowed to look at my private parts. And then she ran off and I said, where are you going? She's going, I'm going to tell a teacher. And so, so she practiced that and we practiced that. And, now and again that would come up, like we would practice that on and off. And again, you said it time and time again, repetition. You have to repeat this, not just with neurodiverse kids, with all kids, because I think it's somewhere I read, a child learns, it takes 200 repetitions to learn if it's verbal, speaking, auditory. But when they play, it's only about 30 times or something like that. So someone please send me the research and I'll read it properly. But it's like 200 times or 300 times when it's verbal, or it's 20 times or 30 times when it's actually in role play, in play. So the more we can make it a game playing, and it's not a game, it's learning for young kids. It's learning.
And I think you've touched on something really important there, is that everyone has a different or a combination of different processing modalities. Like we have conceptual learners, and they're the people who have to understand, like have a global understanding of what they're learning. So these are the kids that really like to know why. They want to know why you're telling them this information, right? So we need to honor that. That's often very strong with ADHD. Why are you talking to me about this? Like, I can't feel safe in this conversation until you tell me why you're telling me this. Like, I don't know whether I should listen or not. We have auditory, of course, which is what we tend to lean on, but it's not often what our kids are. Which you mentioned, which is like having to move so you can understand what's going on. Visual, so like that's why we use visual cues all the time. Verbal, these are the people who are verbal processors, like they need to talk it out with someone so they can understand and make sense of what they're feeling and what they're thinking. Emotional, so they need an emotional, like a really strong emotional connection to the topic. So we've really got to delve into their, like what they think about it, and intuitive. So these are the people that have that spontaneous insight and like that they're compelled to do something when it feels right. And then of course touch, like the people who have to actually physically pick up something or have a diagram or, so that they can learn what that is. So we know that there's like quite a lot of different processing modalities. And when we only go for auditory, which is what we do a lot as parents. We just talk about stuff, your child might not be that. And so we might need to go for a bit of a combo. I specifically want to highlight.
There's a lot of combinations there, because you were like listing them out and I'm like, yep, she's this, she's this, she's this, she's this. And, depending on how dysregulated she is, how emotional she is, like it has to switch. And sometimes I'm not quick enough to switch with her. And that's the thing. Like she goes, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Here, have a hug. Do you want a hug? And sometimes that's all she needs until she regulates, and then we can have a conversation. So, sometimes I need a hug before I can have a conversation.
And don't you wish like most, like that a lot of the time in difficult moments that is really the answer anyway? Like as long as you like, do you need a hug? Like, can we just?
It's like it's consent wise. My daughter now says to me, I need it. Can't you see I need a hug? And she's an adult, right? And I'm like, hey, dude, like you need to ask because I can't read minds. And I've been saying that for a few years. I'm like, if you need a hug, you just need to let me know because I'm not hugging you without consent.
Yes. Oh, can we talk about that for a minute? Because I've
Sure.
got a bit of a thing, right? I am a hugger, right? But I also don't like hugging people because I'm migraine prone and people's perfumes
Oh.
often really trigger migraines. And it is constantly astounding me how many times I get stuck in situations where I'm getting like hugged without my consent, right? Like I don't mind when people go like, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like of course, like, like because I've decided. And then I was thinking about this from my kids' perspective because I sometimes perceive hugs as a bit of a threat because I just don't want to get a migraine, right? So it's like for me, it's a bit different. But then for our kids that are sensory avoidant, and then people like often relatives at the barbecue or whatever just come up, and if they don't hug, then they get shamed. Oh, what's wrong with you? Like, oh, you can't give Uncle blah 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 a hug. Like all of that blows my mind, and I've had a little taste of it because of my migraine, like sensory avoiding, right? And it happens all the time. Yet it's socially acceptable that we don't ask for consent for a hug, and we sort of shame our kids. Go on, hug them. Hug them. Go and touch your body against that person. That's weird.
I got really good at giving witty comebacks. And so, no, because they're really rude. I'd be like, why would he want to hug you? Or yeah. So I used to be really good. I think the police really made me quiet. My husband's like, you are sharp when you throw a barb. He's like, you throw barbs and you're sharp, Kristi. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry. I used to say things like, and someone actually asked me this question on the weekend on Instagram. So this is a situation where it's similar, but not the same. Her child was getting their hair cut and the hairdresser was like, what school are you at? Who's your teacher? What room are you in? Like asking like lots and lots of questions. And she was like, I didn't know how to stop. I felt it was really inappropriate and I didn't know how to stop this person making this comment, like all of these comments. And it makes me think about this situation, right? Because what I do is I turn it around and make it about them. So I said to this mom, I was like, I would have taken control of the conversation. And how I would have taken control of the conversation was I would have gone, oh, well, where's your child at? What class, and I would have gone, or I would have made a comment like, isn't it strange how we ask so many personal questions of people we don't even know? And in that case of like uncle asking, saying, what's wrong with you? I'd be like, isn't it weird that we expect our kids to hug adults when they don't see them very regularly or that they don't want to? Don't you think it's weird that we pressure kids into that? And that's what I used to be like. I used to like say things like, isn't it weird that first of all, I'd be like, she said stop, you need to stop. Respect her consent. That's how I was quite firm with that stuff. But then I would be like, but isn't it weird how, adults continue to touch kids when they say no or stop? Isn't it weird? Like, don't you think that's weird? And then if they didn't get it or they'd like, oh, I was only joking, I'd be like, yeah, but that's what pedos do. And they would be like, oh, you're calling me a pedo. No. I'm just saying, like, from my experience, that's how they groom kids. And I never ever, like, I didn't bite into it. I never got angry, but I'd be like, don't you find it weird that we ask kids to hide secrets from their parents when you give them something that is inappropriate, like a lolly at the shop that will send them into a freaking absolute meltdown? Don't you think it's weird that you're asking my child? Because that's what predators do. They ask their kids to keep secrets. And it works really well because you've just basically called them a predator. No, it works really well because you're actually putting it back on them to think it and to call it out, but you're not calling it out. You're not calling them out. You're just calling the behavior out. And I guess that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't like getting called out for this stuff. But we remember behavior, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, behavior and people are different. You are not your behavior. I used to say this to my child all the time because she'd be like, I'm such a bad kid. Especially when she was having a really emotional time or something was going on at school or someone had rejected her. I'd be like, you are an amazing, funny, bright, young person, kid, beautiful person. I said, but your behavior is different. Maybe you did make a mistake in this moment, but that's your behavior. That's not who you are. You, the person, are amazing. I said, but we all do, but all our behavior can be, bad, wrong, whatever word you want to give it. But I said, but you're not that. You are not your behavior.
Do you know, I love that so much. And I think that's another thing that we can really model for our kids. Like, I stuff up spectacularly. Like, I often get people asking me questions, assuming I'm some sort of perfect parent, right? Like,
guru. You're like the guru.
Like, I lose it in the car on a regular basis, right? Like, you only have to put my 3 kids in the car, like it's Fight Club in there, right? And all I do after it, like our kids don't need perfect parents. They just need parents who can do a repair, right? So all we have to do is go, that got away from me. I am so sorry about that. I lost it back there. I'm going to own that. Whoops. Like that is not how I wanted that to go down. So we're just modeling that got away from me. I like that language rather than saying like I did anything wrong. Because what we're doing is like kind of modeling to our kids that you can make mistakes with behavior and that you can just own it and go, like next time I'm going to like put my earphones in and just block you guys out. Like I'm just going to just like chill out for this moment, or I'm going to have some water with me, some ice water, and I'm going to try and like regulate while we're driving. Like you give them a thing of what you're going to do next time. And I think that doing that repair, like just owning the behavior, saying sorry for it, and then saying what you're going to do next is actually, there's so much power in that, because we don't want them to think like we want them to know that behavior is separate to them, just what you said. And we also need them to know that we stuff up, like that it's not just them stuffing up. Like we stuff up all the time. We're spectacular stuffer-uppers. And so they need to see us doing that repair too.
The repair is the most important part. If anything you do, say for instance, you overreact when your child does something, or you overreact, or you might go, what are you looking at? Like, how, you find them watching porn or something like that, and you're like, what are you looking at porn for? Oh my God. And then, when you calm down, coming back and going, hey, and this is the language I use. Hey, I didn't handle that as best I could have. I know that that's not how I want to deal with these situations. Sorry. I was just really scared in the moment, and my fear made me, react. And so I don't want to do that. I would like to do that better next time. And, whatever. And then have a conversation. And believe me, I'm no guru when it comes to this stuff either. I will, hand on heart, will say, for the most part, I can say I've been pretty good at masking myself, as in going to the toilet, having a fuck moment, and then coming back out and going, okay, so tell me about what and I got really good at asking questions. So the thing is when it comes to a situation, and I remember my daughter asking about 69s, and I was like, interesting question. What do you know about 60? And then I was able to find out what she knew before I was then going and blurting out like everything. Or in that moment, I think she was only about 9 years old at the time, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if you're ready for that information. She had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, it's something that adults can do. And you know what, you're a child, and like, you're not ready to, I don't think I said you're not ready. It's something that adults do when they have sex. And she knew what sex was. And I was like, so, and she was grossed out by sex. And one of my good friends, Vanessa Hamilton, says, if your kid goes, ugh, like that, you go, yeah, that's exactly right. Because kids aren't meant to, this is not for kids. This is for adults. And when you're an adult, you'll feel differently. But right now, that's the perfect response. It's not for kids. And so, you just like reiterating they're having the right response in that moment, and that it's not cool and it's not something kids do because it's actually not for kids. And, you're not shaming them for thinking that. I remember my in-laws used to, my daughter would be sitting at the table and she's just blurts stuff out, like blurts out, talking about penises, vaginas. Like she was, year 5 and 6 doing puberty education. She was talking about why is it that they talk about boys' wet dreams, but they don't talk about female masturbation? Because, she was like, they talk all about boys and wet dreams and boys' ejaculation, but they didn't talk about girls at all. And she was like, they just talk about pregnancy in sex education. And my in-laws were like absolutely mortified that we were having this conversation at the dinner table. And I was like, you know what? You're 100% correct. What do you think that they don't? What do you think that they should have included in your education? Is there anything that you want to learn more about? And, and I got books and I helped her learn, but they wanted to shut down the conversation. But, I know your black and white kids, and my black and white child was like, don't tell me what to frickin' talk about. I'll talk about what I want to talk about. And, so that goes down like a lead balloon at the in-laws dinner table. But I just think that, and I was just like, yeah, sister, keep going.
Just like, you're just using that opportunity for the greater good. Like when those moments come up, we need to be able to support them in the moment, right? Like if they're asking questions about it, we've got to have our answers and we've got to hide our shock.
If you don't have the answers, ask questions. That would be my advice. If you don't have the answers or you don't feel you're ready. And the other thing on the repair / ask questions is go back a couple of days later. So what I would do within 24 or 48 hours, I would say, hey, you know that conversation we had the other day about sex? And my daughter would go, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I know that it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's been a couple of days. Is there anything else you want to ask me about that? Because I know that you've probably been thinking about it, because honestly, my daughter at 8 went around and asked everyone, her grandparents, every adult she ever met, do you still have sex? And I was like, and every parent was like, I had so much fun laughing at everyone's reactions, but it was, and also a bit embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, this kid's got no filter. But at the same time, it was really good because it again encouraged conversation. Like I would say, well, it's not, most people don't talk about this out loud. We talk about it because we want you to feel comfortable talking about things, and it's it's a fact of life, etc. I mean, we had a farm, so we saw animals getting it on, like that's always a good way to help young kids understand things. Like that's how you have babies and stuff. But for me, it was just like, okay, we just go back a couple of days later. Oh, we talked about vaping the other day. Have you got any questions? Oh, we talked about drugs the other day. Have you got any questions? Because they then go away, they have more conversations with their friends and thinking about it, and they're like mulling it over in their brain, and they probably do. And the more times you encourage them to come to you, the more time they're going to come to you.
Love that so, so much. Yeah, it is a very, very important step.
So, Sharon, I know that you've got a really amazing something coming up in the next couple of weeks. Do you want to tell listeners about what you're doing in the next few weeks within your ADHD families community?
Thank you. So I am hosting a free coaching week for families. And the one thing I wish that I had have been given, when I was talking about crying in the car after my first son's diagnosis, is we just didn't have a real clear plan about what we were targeting and what we were actually doing and how we were going to support him. And we went off in all crazy directions. Like we did lots. We actually bombarded him and completely put ourselves into burnout in trying to do all of the things. But what I realized was missing was we didn't have a very clear plan or a roadmap for how to support him in the best way possible. And I know that a lot of the information about ADHD is quite generic. And I know that families and their dynamics and their individuals, and we know that it's genetic, so it's like likely to have a few members with ADHD.
Yes.
They need a unique, tailored roadmap for their family. And so on the 2nd of March, we are starting our free coaching week. And what we're going to do is we're doing a short thing every day, and we're doing lives as well, like live coaching. And then we are going to use that information to build a tailored roadmap for each family. So they actually build it as they're going through the training and going through that live coaching so that they get that roadmap. Now, this is the thing that I wish that I'd been given. It would have saved us a lot of heartache, and it would have saved us a lot of time and money. And so I'm doing that. I think we've got 560 people registered already.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's going to be so great. And it's also going to be with community and this real practical, tangible tools for ADHD specifically. Now, in terms of ADHD coaching, I'm a families coach. So that means that I'm looking at the whole family unit and how they run. And I'm big on anything that saves time, saves effort, and builds executive function, because I think that executive function skills and being able to support our kids to be able to, navigate those tricky situations that they have and be able to advocate for themselves ties in so beautifully with your work as well. To be able to go, this is what I need to be able to succeed in this situation. Like this is how my brain works. These are all the things that I'm super passionate about. But I know that to get there, we need to take a lot of the intense load off that primary caregiver. So I love a bit of time saving, a little bit of streamlining systems focus, because I know from living it as well that we need to support it in a whole family approach, not just the child. So that's what we're doing, and it's going to be so exciting and fun because I think being able to surround yourself with other families that are going through and navigating this as well is going to have so much power to it.
For sure. And like not every child, and I have seen this, experienced it, not every child is the same. They are all wonderful, beautiful, amazing individuals. And in fact, I love, it sounds weird saying this, but I had spent some time with a little 4-year-old and a 2-year-old recently, and they were just so much fun. And I forget how fun kids are because I don't see them as much anymore because I'm dealing with adults and parents. And so when I spend time with young people and young kids, I'm just like, you guys are amazing. Like, do you realize how amazing you are? And, and I think as we hear so much negative stuff about kids negative stuff about ADHD, negative stuff about autism, and negative stuff about just kids in general, being a parent in general now. And I think we underestimate how amazing our kids are. They're amazing in their own special little ways. And I think at the end of the day, all we want for our kids is to become adults that can function, that can do the best they can in adulthood. And that's our job. And that's what you're helping them get there. You're helping them create those executive functioning, which is critical thinking, thinking things through, making better decisions. Eventually they'll get there, right? Like they will get there.
That's right. Our kids get there, right? But it doesn't happen by accident in terms of making family life easier. Like we've got to put some intentional strategy behind it. And
Yeah.
it's like TikTok probably ain't going to save us for this one. Like we need to have like
Doom scrolling ain't going to save us.
it's just adding to our noise and overwhelm. So what I like is to give people like a really clear roadmap. So that address is thefunctionalfamily.com/roadmap. So
Great.
go in, register.
I'll put them in the show notes.
Thank you. And, just get practical strategies, get the right information and be able to support your family with a real tailored approach. So I think this is a nice, completely free, achievable thing for families to get involved in.
You're going to be a busy, busy person with that many people getting all those tailored design, all of the stuff that you're giving them. That's going to be an amazing week. So that starts on the 2nd of March, everyone. And I will put everything in the show notes. Now, Sharon, if they want to find you on socials or in your world, how do they find you?
So the best place to check us out is the website. So it's thefunctionalfamily.com. We've got the ADHD Families Podcast. We've got a massive support group that's free for parents, lots and lots of free resources on our website. And then, we run the roadmap regularly, and we've got a quest, which is a 12-month coaching experience. So we've got all of those
I
things.
saw your first. I saw something the other day, and it's so cool. I was like, oh my gosh. I saw a little pop-up, or not a pop-up, but like I was doom scrolling, and I saw, and you had the little scroll behind you. It was so cute.
Yeah, I'm trying to changing it up. So I've done with the idea of the quest is I was like, you know what? I just need to do something more fun and tailored and personalized for people. And so the quest literally came to me, and it's like we navigate an actual quest. Like we go through the jungle, and then we go to like the rapids, and like we actually make those things like the ADHD stages that we take families through. Like the jungle is where it's all confusing, and we look at who's in there in terms of professionals and what support we actually need. And then the rapids is navigating some of those trickier behaviors. And, we go through all these little stages, and it just gamifies it and makes it more exciting to learn and empowers parents with like that it's not just all on usually, like, let's face it, let's be real. It's usually the mum that's in my world, right? Like she's like exhausted, she's tired.
Most of them.
Ways. Yeah. And so I wanted it to be a whole family approach. So how do we do that? We get the kids involved in implementing these strategies. And that's what the quest is. It's really about going, okay, this is another wild thing my mum's doing. Cause like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but our kids also don't like grand announcements, right? Like they don't like it. Like from now on, we're all going to be the type of family that puts shoes on. Like all my kids with ADHD are like, we're never going to do that. Right. So we're doing it together as a family. And I think that it really encourages that buy-in and really encourages them to get on board with the strategy and take some of the pressure off the mum too.
Yeah. And I think the gamifier is the key. Like anything that was gamified in my daughter's life, she was like, yep, I'm there. You didn't even have to fight her for it. But if you said, let's do this together, she's like, no, I'm too tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm this, I'm that. But the minute it became a game, it was like, yeah, I'm in for that. And so I think it's really important. And also, you did mention it, like a lot of our kids got it from somewhere, and it is genetic, it's a genetics thing. So a hereditary thing. I mean, like I said, I don't think I am ADHD or autistic, but my husband definitely is. And so when I look but they're so different. Like you've got 3 kids. I bet you they're all different. I've got a husband and a daughter, so different. Like I know how to manage and help my daughter. No idea how to do it with my husband. I'm still learning now, and he's 45 years old. So, I mean, I think I'll be learning for the rest of my life. But, thank you so much, Sharon. It's just been, I love our conversations. We're so much aligned in how we do things. I think it's, it's so beautiful that different education, different messages, but same message in the long run. So, and it's going to be helpful for people to come along to your quest and to, join your community and be in your space if they've got, children that need that extra support and help.
Thank you so much for having me on today. And you know how much I really value your work. And, specifically for my community that is more at risk, like I very much value the work that you do. And I know that it can be very tricky sometimes. And so I just want to honour that you're giving parents the tools to be able to navigate these tricky conversations because, yeah, it's a bit
They're
it's
so
a wild
important.
west out there, but it is important, right? So
Yeah.
we need to be having more of these conversations. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Well, thank you. And I will make sure everyone knows where to go to find the quest and to find your free week.
Thank you.
Hey, parents, before you go, I want to leave you with this. Neurodivergent children are not broken. They are not naive and they are not too much. But they may need different conversations and repeated conversations and adults who understand the deeper why behind their behaviours. When we understand rejection sensitivity, when we understand impulsivity, when we understand how predators exploit unmet needs, we can protect without shaming and we can guide without controlling. And we can build safety without fear. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another parent or educator who needs to hear it. And if you're looking for practical tools to help you have calm, confident body safety conversations with the children in your life, you'll find my resources linked below. In fact, you'll find everything you need to know below in the show notes. Thank you for showing up and thank you for being willing to learn. And thank you for choosing prevention over avoidance. You have no idea how much this means to the kids in your life. And I'll see you in the next conversation.